Armada Kickoff is brought to you by Dreamfinders Homes, Community First Credit Union, Winn-Dixie, Baptist Health, and Bowden Eye and Associates.
Hello and welcome into Armada Kickoff. Another busy week for the Armada. A game this past Saturday, then last night, and this Saturday they're back home against the Carolina Railhawks. We have the highlights from the week coming up. The Armada steel has certainly been tested this fall season. I asked a number of the players how they've dealt with the challenges, and there are some very good answers you'll want to hear. Plus, Mauricio Ruiz in the Armada boot room with a closer look at what the team needs to do to finish chances better. But let's start with Saturday's trip down south to face Fort Lauderdale. For some reason, Armada matches in Fort Lauderdale seem to create these dramatic situations. Tense moments, late goals, that sort of thing. And the most recent chapter in the rivalry was no different.
Tony Meola returning to the site of his first professional one as a player. Came a bit snake-bitten. Here is Junior Sandoval on the deck in the 17th minute. He's out with a calf injury. Charles Alondu comes in. Great chance for Alondu in the early stages. Almost got it in. Did get it past Bruno, the Fort Lauderdale goalkeeper, but just missed the far post. Alondu with a great chance there. It was 0-0 at halftime. Second half, Sean Lewis was just terrific in goal for the Armada. This shot by Ramon Nunez turned aside by Lewis. Look at the extension by Lewis there on the save. Great performance. 9 saves in the game for Lewis. Danny Barrow got in the game, had his shot as well. The young Welshman from just at the edge of the 18-yard box. Save made by Bruno there. Then Barrow and Charles Alondu, the two youngsters on the Armada roster, able to connect. Here is Barrow finding Alondu, and Alondu goes from distance as well. And this one probably on target again. Take a look at this from behind. Bruno gets just one hand on it. Might have been destined for the post, but might have been on target as well. Still 0-0. And it looked like it would finish that way after this save from Sean Lewis, stopping Paulo Jr.'s blast. Then in the 88th minute, corner kick. Maicon Santos, the Armada killer. 5th time in his career he has scored against the Armada. Did it with Tampa Bay last year, does it with Fort Lauderdale this year. And that's the difference maker. One last chance in stoppage time for the Armada. Tyler Ruthven a header. Alex Anderson got his foot on it here, but couldn't quite get it in the right spot. Would have been a great play. The Armada fall on the road to Fort Lauderdale 1-0.
The schedule's pretty unforgiving right now. I guess the positive would be that we have a chance to get a result in a few days. We don't have to dwell on it, but it's happened so many times. Guys are gutted.
We have a lot of positives to take through into New Wednesday, but yes, we just got to focus on take away from the positives, and luckily it's a quick turnaround, so we don't have to think about this too much.
You know, it was a tough game, back and forth the whole time. You know, both teams had their chances tonight, and unfortunately we couldn't bury a goal. And you know, they punished us on a rebound. You know, and that's just the story of today. You know.
Armada in Indianapolis to take on Indy 11 at Carroll Stadium. Indy had already clinched a spot in the postseason thanks to their spring season title. 13th minute, Indy able to get the ball free, and this was a storyline all game. Opportunities in the box for Indy 11. Justin Braun, who scored against the Armada in Jacksonville, puts Indy in front 1-0, and it didn't take long for Indy to find a number of these kind of opportunities. Take a look again. Awful lot of room for Braun in a tight space there, and Indy was up 1-0. Just 3 minutes later, Amon Zayed starts his hit parade, scoring for Indy to make it a 2-0 contest, and the Armada were reeling early on. Jacksonville, though, able to come back. 33rd minute, Keita got free, got the start in the 3-5-2 formation, and Keita scores his first NASL goal of the year for the Armada. But that little bit of momentum wouldn't last long. 3 minutes later, Nemanja Vukovic from outside the box put one on the ground and got it past Sean Lewis to make it a 3-1 Indy lead. Tim Hankinson's team looking good at home as they have most of the year. Second half, 58th minute, Zayed again, right place, right time. His second goal of the year. He came in tied for second in the lead in goals scored. And by the time all was said and done, Zayed would wind up with 3 as he put this one away on the rebound. 5-1 Indy at that point. The Armada did get one back in the 80th minute. This would actually go as an own goal on Colin Falvey on the cross from Matt Boehner. Keita was there, but it's an own goal, and Indy wins it 5-2 over the Armada. So here are the stats from Indy, a 5-2 game, and a lot of these stats really bear that out, not the least of which being shots. This may be a little misleading. The Armada, most of their shots came from outside of the box. Most of Indy's shots on goal coming from inside of the box. They had better chances and took advantage of them all night long as the Armada surrendered the most goals they have ever given up in a single match. Now let's convene the Analyst Roundtable presented by Subway.
Players that you can switch around, and we're going to be very strong.
We saw a lot of different players, a lot of different lineups.
Here on the Analyst Roundtable, welcome in Mauricio Ruiz and Andy Kidd. All right, guys, last night's performance.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying that it was the first time that the Armada really looked like they weren't in a game. You know, it was some sloppy marking, sloppy clearances. You know, the thing that the Armada have hung their hat on all year is defense. You know, they're not going to let in a lot of goals. They're going to be firm in the back and then slowly build the attack. Well, last night was the opposite. They weren't firm in the back.
I think more than anything, they looked confused. Yeah. You know, you switch what you've done pretty much in every single game, which is a 4-2-3-1, a 4-1-4-1, 4-1. And then you go with really no time to train, and you go on the road against one of the better teams, if not arguably the top of the team, into 3-5-2. Now that system can't work, and he's shown to work, but with that quick turnaround, a 3-5-2, and you switch, your players look confused last night.
All right, this is one of the many stretches where they have 3 games in 8 days. In a larger scope, they have 6 games in 21 days. Mm-hmm. What's the key to weathering this very difficult schedule?
There really isn't a secret besides taking care of your body the best way that you possibly can, and being professional about it, and having short-term memory if this is possible. I know it's been a tough stretch, not just because of the 8 days, but it's been a couple tough weeks.
It's a tough losses.
So professionally, they really have to give up as much as their mentality, their memory, and try to refresh. And you got Carolina Railhawks. There's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
Carolina Railhawks are coming now down. They're coming here Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, the coaches are going to make the training sessions appropriate when you have that many games. Make sure the guys get their legs back as much as possible. And then it's really a time when you look for the depth of the roster to show up. And that's something we talked about early in the season. And you know, it's kind of now or never. The depth of the roster needs to show up, and you know, this is the 3rd game in 8 days, and this is a chance for some of those guys to show that when some of the veterans may have some heavy legs.
All right, guys, thanks so much. More coming up for you guys here in just a bit. Let's hear now from Tony Meola. He is, of course, working to help his team find the net, and he admitted that there may be a bit of the trying too hard going on. Here's Coach's Corner presented by Asana Wellness Center, the official training facility of the Jacksonville Armada.
Yeah, I think we did see a little Saturday of that, but again, you know, you'd rather them try too hard than not try enough, and I cannot fault the effort, that's for sure. We had opportunities to score goals. We went and did the film. Fort Lauderdale had 6 shots in and around the box, 5 were on the frame. We had 6 as well. We put 1 on the frame, and that just needs to be a little bit sharper. And
in terms of using the roster here, and when you have these 3 games in 8 days, have you got a good feel for what you want to do now? I mean, you've been through this a couple of times.
We made some notes after Indy game when we were home, when we go and review our tactics and review and say we might want to try this or that, and we do that for every game, and we'll make a change against Indy. We've got to get some athletes on the field because they're big, they're strong, they dump an awful lot of balls in the box, so we have to be ready to deal with that. You know, at some point we'll turn the corner, you know, and I know it's frustrating for people, it's frustrating for us because you saw, you were out here today, you saw today's training. The guys look sharp. We got to put it together on Saturday.
Well, so how do the players remain positive in a difficult stretch like this? It's vital. If the team is going to pull out of it, they have to stay together. It's a question I asked several of the players this week.
It's football. I mean, football can be, you can love football, and football also could be really, really bad to you.
And right now, football, soccer, isn't treating the Armada in the nicest possible way. So where do the players turn for inspiration? For some, it's external. Family, a college coach, former teammates and friends. For others, it starts with their current teammates, especially the ones who have been through it before.
I live with Zach and Jamal, so just speak to them too. They're both really experienced players, so we'll speak to them. And just the leaders on the team, we'll speak to them, especially they'll give us the experience.
you know, for us, making sure the younger guys keep on track and making sure that we don't accept anything less than perfection on the training pitch is, you know, as far as the leader on the team and, you know, one of the older guys looking out for the younger guys, it's as much as we can do to make sure that that doesn't happen.
If there is a silver lining to this very busy stretch of games for the Armada, 6 matches in 21 days, it is that they have a chance to very quickly get back out there and a chance to change their fortune.
The longer you linger on it, the worse it is. The best it is just to get right back out there and try to get that W. It doesn't matter who it is now, we just need to win.
All right, here's what's coming up for the Armada. Saturday, they'll take on the Carolina Railhawks. More on that matchup coming up in just a bit. Then, after a trip to Canada to play the Ottawa Fury, it's back home for a Wednesday affair against Fort Lauderdale. This is big news, folks. Every home match on Wednesdays from here on out, it's Wet Your Whistle Wednesday. That's right. $1 beers. For single match tickets, call 844-2-ARMADA or go online to armadafc.com. Coming up, home teams are beginning to dominate as the NASL season rolls on. We'll go around the NASL. Plus, Mauricio Ruiz rejoins us for the Armada Boot Room. Stick around. More Armada Kickoff is straight ahead.
To enter for your chance to participate in the Winn-Dixie Bubble Battle, visit your nearest Winn-Dixie in your Armada gear, take a selfie, and post it to any of the Armada social media using the hashtag WinnDixieBB. 2 winners will be selected every Wednesday during a home match week. Assemble a team of 3, and you're ready for battle.
You know, road teams are always at a bit of a disadvantage, but this week that was highlighted with the results around the league. Let's go around the NASL, presented by Nike.
Let's start in New York, where the Cosmos set a record, their 10th straight home victory, 3-0 over Puerto Rico FC, thanks to Lucky Kosana. Had a goal and an assist. He was named the NASL's Player of the Week. Ottawa Fury, Tampa Bay Rowdies, Fury's 3rd straight win. All have come by shutouts. Home teams excelling in the NASL this past week. Oklahoma City, the site as Rayo OKC and Minnesota United went to stoppage time 1-1. Christian Ramirez scoring in stoppage time, but Footy Danso answered in stoppage time. A wild 2-2 draw. Miami FC, Indy 11. Miami now unbeaten in their last 3, and Indy has lost 2 in their last 3 after a 2-1 Miami FC victory at home. In Canada, FC Edmonton, 8th straight home win by Edmonton. They continue the string of very good performances at home. Jake Keegan scoring his 5th goal of the year for Edmonton. The Railhawks shut out for the 2nd straight game.
All right, here are the NASL standings in the fall season. Of course, the Armada have a long way to go. They got to get something done here. Got to start winning. Every team in the league has won thus far. And Indy 11, with their win over the Armada, atop the table as the weekend gets set to start. As far as the combined numbers are concerned, the Armada ahead of Puerto Rico, of course, after the Puerto Rico FC started in the fall season. But it's Indy 11, New York Cosmos. Remember, Indy's already got the postseason spot wrapped up, so whoever has the best fall season and then the next 2 best combined numbers will wind up playing in the postseason in the North American Soccer League. Now let's head to the Armada Boot Room, presented by MTech. All right, here in the Armada Boot Room, Mauricio Ruiz. We've talked about how the Armada right now don't have a lot of margin for error when it comes to the attack. You've got some examples of that.
Yeah, not creating a whole lot of chances. We're going to show against the Strikers last Saturday how many chances they did create, which was only limited in 2, and the reason why they're not creating more chances, in my opinion. So we're going to see here a good possession from the Armada, and I want to make sure that we target down. Danny Barrow's the right winger, and Anderson is a forward. They're finding the slots, and it's going to be a great ball there because Danny Barrow actually tucked in. And we're able to move the game around. Danny Barrow continued to find himself in tight little spaces there, just rotating around, good spacing. Charles Lalonde on top of your box. But more than anything, here's where Anderson needs to continue to, between the 2 center backs, this little area here is where Anderson needs to find himself throughout the game. Because then it creates space for Danny Barrow to come in. Charles Lalonde gets out of the way. And one of the few chances that they might have had, a shot from inside the box there, but a good opportunity. And then we're going to see here now on the counterattack. Once again, Forwards doing a good job. This is the left winger in Pascal. Anderson pulling away and creating a passing lane for Charles Orlando to penetrate in the middle. Danny Barrow commits the defender. Good position from the Armada players there. Once again, one guy there, good numbers there. Charles Orlando probably could have taken the ball a little bit longer, but really, Cole, limited to these 2 chances. And here's why. You look at this is the average position of the players spent throughout the game. You have your attacking mid too close to your holding mid here. You have your left winger that should be more in this area. That should be a left winger. Your right winger that should be more in this area. And more important, that's your forward. That's the guy that you want to score goals. He's got to spend the majority of his time in here. You got to put your players in more dangerous positions in order to create more opportunities.
Yeah, we saw last night again, most of the chances outside of the box rather than inside the box for the Armada. Mauricio, thanks so much. Straight ahead, more from Mauricio, plus Andy Kidd will join us on the Analyst Roundtable, and we're going to talk about what to expect in the Olympics as far as the soccer competition is concerned. Stick around. More Armada Kickoff is straight ahead. Hey, all new, stop by Subway for the Armada FC meal deal. When you do, you get a voucher for a buy one, get one free for all remaining home matches in 2016. And you can enter for a chance to win all kinds of prizes, including season tickets for 2017 at your local area participating Subway restaurants. Now time for the Analyst Roundtable, presented by Subway.
Players that you can switch around, and we're going to be very strong.
We saw a lot of different players, a lot of different lineups.
All right, back in here with Mauricio Ruiz and Andy Kidd. The Olympics are underway. The U.S. men are not in it. U.S. women are. Mauricio, which one of those 2 competitions will you spend more time watching?
I think from the U.S. standpoint, if you're a U.S. soccer fan, male or female, there's an interesting storyline on the women's side. First time that they're actually going to be going into it as the defending world champion. No one's ever done Olympics and the world champion or in the World Cup at the same time. And they're trying to go for 4 Olympics, 4 gold medals in a row. So I think as a soccer fan in this country, pretty exciting time for the women.
Yeah, I mean, a big blow to the U.S. men that the U23s didn't make it. I mean, that would have been exciting to see them there. But I'm with Mauricio. I'm definitely interested in watching the USA try to bring home the gold medal coming off the World Cup. There's a big buzz around the women's team right now and excitement. So, I mean, while we were watching the Armada, we were taping the women's game so we could watch it later last night. So, yeah, so I'm definitely U.S. women's.
I don't want to spoil you on the DVR, but they did win 2-0. So, U.S. started off well in group play. Matt Fondy returns to Jacksonville on Saturday wearing a Carolina kit. He scored 2 goals so far. Why didn't it work with him here?
That's a good question, Cole. I would say a variety of factors. Once it started going downhill where he wasn't scoring, in one game became 2, and 2 games became 3, it can start to become a mental thing, and you need a change of scenery. You need to get somewhere new, new players. He also has some players around him in Carolina, Shipolani and some of those guys that can create and beat players that open up opportunities for a target forward like Matt Fondy. So they do have some players that complement him a little bit better.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the style of the player, and if you complement the style of the team, and something that we've seen the Armada try to develop is a possession style through your striker forward, through your center forward, and that's not his strength. He's good to be in between the 2 center backs and pick up near post runs, pick up little scraps inside the box, much like we saw Zayed last night within the 11. So he needs services. He needs services from wide areas and early, and that's not typically the system that the Armada have been playing. So it wasn't successful here, and Carolina fits him a little bit better.
You mentioned the difficulty in changing to playing 3 at the back as the Armada did last night. Didn't have a lot of time to train on it. Do you stick with it now, though, going forward, particularly coming back home? It should be a system that leads to more chances and more goals, potentially.
And it's something we talked about before. Is like you set up your team, obviously, with your best attributes, but also with your opponents and who you're going to play against. So it'd be a matter of looking at Carolina Railhawks and see how they're doing this fall. They flew, in the spring, and then kind of they tempered off a little bit. And I think this fall is a little bit of both. So it's a matter to see how they're playing. They're playing with 2 forwards, playing with 1 forward. In order to make that decision. They can go back to a 4-1-4-1 because something they've been doing. But if they want to stick to 3-5-2, they have to improve on some things.
Yeah, and I would say you're exactly right. You got to look at who you're playing. the streak that they're Armada on right now, I think you gotta get 4 at the back right now. I just feel strongly that you just gave up 5 goals. You got to right that ship. Even if the Armada struggle to score, you got to right that ship. And the other thing I would say, and I know we're not talking about personnel right now, but Danny Barrow comes on and he makes things happen. I mean, he's one of the few players that comes on the field and beats a player and creates a numbers up opportunity. And whether he's a defensive liability or not, he's one of those few that's a difference maker. And I think you put him out there, whether it's 4 at the back, 3 at the back, whatever it is, and he's going to create some chances.
Andy Kidd, Mauricio Ruiz, thanks so much. Coming up, a look ahead to Saturday's return home for the Armada and a look at the Carolina Railhawks. Stick around. More Armada Kickoff is straight ahead.
Saturday, the Armada take on the Carolina Railhawks for the second time this year. You might recall that the Railhawks began the season with 4 straight victories. They've won only twice since, both in the fall season. They do have a familiar face on the roster. Matt Fondy, who began the year with the Armada, has joined Carolina and has scored a couple of goals for the Railhawks. Carolina also looking to try to solve some of their goal-scoring woes. They just came off a Canadian road trip. 2 matches in Canada, 2 losses, no goals scored.
All right, here is what's coming up for the Armada on Saturday. Game is brought to you by Key Auto Company. It is nonprofit night. Great chance for the Armada to continue to do great work in the community. Tickets are available by calling 844-2-ARMADA or go online to armadafc.com. Coverage on CW17 begins at 6:30, kickoff at 7. Also want to remind you that the August 20th match for the Armada has been moved. The kickoff time moved from 7 o'clock to 2:30. That's because the Jaguars have a preseason game that day as well, so it'll be 2:30 for the kickoff against Minnesota United. More details to come on what that whole day is going to be about down at the sports complex. Remember, you get the very latest on the Armada online at armadafc.com and on Sports Radio 930. The Armada Coaches Show features Tony Meola Mondays at 6, and the Armada Soccer Show is Wednesday at 6. Our coverage of the Armada and Carolina Railhawks once again begins 6:30 Saturday right here on CW17. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time here on Armada Kickoff.